Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 87. He's Dave Bryan, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this busy Tuesday morning, Steelers Nation. Dave, the quiet part is over. Sport at the NFL, the only sport that's left in town. We have so much to talk about today.
Yeah, free agency is a sport now. At least it's keeping our mind busy as the social distancing continues on, obviously. But yeah, a whole bunch to talk about today, and especially when it comes to the Steelers as well.
Yeah, I kind of compared it to the dam breaking of this news of information, this wave of info that we knew was going to happen, all kind of based around what was going to happen with the CBA, and that's a really good place to start. We'll talk about it quickly. The players did ratify the new CBA for the next 10 years. It'll run through 2030, and that, I think, you can debate the merits of the deal for the players. I think there's a lot of things that the players probably lost out in this deal, but from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan standpoint, to put on that hat, this was crucial for them to give them the cap flexibility they need to do all the things they have to do prior to the start of the new league year.
Yeah, and as I put up on Twitter yesterday, Alex, the real option, heck, we talked about it now for the last 4 months or whatever. The real obstacle here with the Steelers and the salary cap and everything that they had to do was the 30% rule in the old CBA. And once the CBA was ratified over the weekend there, 30% rule went away. That made it a lot easier to do restructures and everything. I mean, it opened up a huge restructure treasure chest, if you will. I forget what the total max, roughly, well over $30 million at their disposal. Should they go that way? Now, obviously, are they going to free up that much money? No, but they're going to free up.
They got pretty close.
They're going to free up a lot of it, that way, and already have 5 restructures in the books that we're going to talk about here. So, really, in essence, Alex, it's business as usual. We talked about how easy it is to massage the cap most of the offseason there without a 30% rule in place. And once that went away, man, I mean, there's really nothing to worry about at this point. The Steelers will get done exactly what they want to get done at this point, and they'll restructure however many contracts they need to restructure to get to that point. The deletions were made yesterday. I think we've probably seen the end of those. We also have a retirement to talk about, and but as of right now, I mean, this team is in almost $15 million in estimated cap space right now as we sit here and are talking on this podcast Tuesday morning.
The cap is a lie, and Steelers can restructure contracts as they've done before. They're probably doing a little bit more this year than in past years, but that's really the only way to get under the cap, to be able to tag Dupree and tender the guys they've yet to tender, but certainly that's what they're clearing cap space for. So they're taking an Oprah-like approach to restructures. You get a restructure, you get a restructure, you get a restructure. 5 in total. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Let's start with the first piece of news that came out yesterday that kind of kicked off this wave of information. Bud Dupree officially being franchise tag. No surprise to either of us, Dave. Tomlin, Rooney, Colbert all basically hinted and said it was going to happen without outright saying it was going to happen. No way they were going to let him go. So Dupree playing under the franchise tag. $15.8 million for 2020?
Official number, $15.828 million, my understanding, and that's him not getting. I think there was only of all the players that were listed as being tagged, I only think one of them was given the exclusive tag, and I believe that was Dak Prescott. Everybody else received the non-exclusive tag. And look, I mean, the difference, obviously, an exclusive franchise tag player is not free to sign with another club, is offered the greater of one, either the average of the top 5 salaries at the player's position for the current year as of the end of the restricted free agent signing period on April 17th, or the amount of the required tender for a non-exclusive franchise player, as explained, later on there, in the CBA when it comes to that. But not surprising that it's not a big deal to me that Bud only got the non-exclusive versus the exclusive, because look, no team's going to come after him now at this point.
They have to give up 2 first-round picks to do that, right?
Let's see, the non-exclusive. Let's see, player. Let me.
I mean, that was under the old CBA. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Signing him would have to give up 2 first-round picks.
If a club extends a required tender to a non-exclusive franchise player pursuant to the section, players shall be permitted to negotiate a player contract with any club except that draft choice. Compensation of 2 first-round draft selections shall be made in the event he signs with a new club. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal that they didn't give him the exclusive tag, because even the non-exclusive comes with the team having to give up 2 first-round selections.
Right. And that will never happen. And to anyone asking, so we did get some questions. We did a stream yesterday with some questions about a tag and trade. Basically 0 chance of that happening too. Colbert said if they tag a player, it's with the intent of doing a long-term deal. They have no interest in trading Bud Dupree. So for anyone wondering, asking, I bet you something on the email box about that. That's almost certainly not going to happen.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
All right, so we knew that was kind of the news expected. Get that out of the way. Then it became, okay, so now that you've tagged Bud Dupree, that eats up, again, almost $16 million in cap space for 2020. How do you get under the cap? And 2 ways to do that: roster deletions, as you and the team like to call it, and restructures. And there were a whole lot of cuts made yesterday. 3 out of the gate: Mark Barron, Anthony Chickillo, and a surprise, Johnny Holton. Chickillo, not a surprise. Barron, I was pretty sure he was going to get cut, but, there were some reports that he could stay. So I think it was the right move there. So not anything super shocking. I mean, Holton was a surprise, saves you very little money, but I'm not going to lose a whole lot of sleep over Johnny Holton getting cut.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, you save like 200 and something thousand, a mere 215,000 in cutting him after displacement takes place. Really, when you look at the other, a lot of people, when they're figuring these up, they don't account for the roster displacement in there. So those are things that are very important. But when you look at the cutting of Anthony Chickillo, Mark Barron, and Johnny Holton, and then you factor in after top 51 roster displacement, they cleared $9.245 million in 2000 salary cap space just by cutting those 3 players. Now, is Johnny Holton a big loss? Absolutely not. What his chances were very, very slim anyway of him not making the roster. Really, to be quite honest with you, and you kind of hit on this, of everything that happened on Monday, perhaps the most surprising thing was that Johnny Holton was part of those cuts. But once again, nobody's going to lose any sleep over that. But the 3 moves combined, once again, after top 51 roster displacement, saved $9.245 million.
Yeah, I guess every little bit's going to help and going to count at that point. Some people asking why Holton over Switzer. If it was me, I probably would have cut Switzer over Holton, because Holton has that, I think, clear, defined special teams value. But again, not going to lose a whole lot of sleep over that. Chickillo was a no-brainer. I mean, he just couldn't justify that contract for his role and lack of production. And Mark Barron, listen, I know people have talked about some beat writers, they're going to keep him, they like him. He did improve as the season went on, but if this team had $30 million in cap space, then yeah, maybe you keep him. But knowing that Devin Bush is going to ascend into an every down role next year, I find Vince Williams to be a very, very similar player to Mark Barron. I'm excited about Ulysses Gilbert III and what he can do in year 2. There really wasn't that role, and it's really hard to justify keeping Mark Barron, especially if you keep him, then you probably can't retain one of your tender guys that you want to retain as well. So I think this was a relatively easy decision to do.
Yeah, I never understood Jerry Dulac's reasoning and reports on all
the idea
that.
of cutting Vince was just so bizarre to me.
It was, and doing so to keep a guy like Barron was even more. I never gave it much thought, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. So those were the three cuts. Again, nothing that'll make your jaw hit the ground there. And then you wonder, my wonder at that point was, okay, nothing on Ramon Foster. You think if Foster would have been cut, then he would have been part of that news release the Steelers sent out. So what was going on with Ramon Foster? We found out there were some reports the Steelers tried to shop him, which they weren't going to get anything for Ramon Foster, but that kind of indicated they still did not want to have him in their 2020 plans. But ultimately, Foster announced his retirement after 11 years in the NFL, 145 starts, second most starts by any undrafted free agent in Steelers history, only trailing Donnie Shell's 160. A great career. I wrote about it this morning, Dave, an article on Steelers Depot. He is the reason why I hate the term camp body, because he was a UDFA, I'm sure an afterthought. No one ever really paid attention to him in that first training camp. Turns out to be one of the best Steelers offensive linemen of this era. So hats off to Ramon Foster on an amazing career.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, a few people might have been. Him retiring was a plausible scenario throughout all this. I mean, look, we've been talking really since the season ended that Ramon Foster had probably played his last game in Pittsburgh, that he was probably going to be a salary cap casualty, barring him either dropping his salary, down to the minimum or whatever, because of his age and kind of quality of play. The writing was on the wall there that he was not going to be back. They probably went to him and said, "Look, would you rather retire, or would you rather us cut you?" That's probably how that conversation went. Talking about a player and retiring is just something you don't want to get into the realm of doing. Especially a guy like Foster that gave all those years to the Steelers, and really, you could say played kind of under contract value for a good part of his season. And heck, you even go back 2016 season. Man, you could make a strong argument that he was a Pro Bowl snub that year, Alex.
Absolutely.
And really, I think even as long as you've been part of Steelers Depot, and most definitely since you've been part of the podcast, the way I describe Ramon Foster over the years is Mr. Consistent. Just a consistent style of play. I remember going all the way back to the 2009 season there. I think they had 273s, I think, in camp at the time. One on, obviously one defensive side of the ball and one offense. And they kept.
I wonder who the defensive side of the ball guy was.
Was it?
I can look it up.
Was it Sonny Harris? I don't remember.
If you get this, I'm just calling it a day.
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember. All
right, let me pull it up here.
All right.
Oh my God, it was Sonny Harris. Dave.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Sean Harris.
Was it really?
Yeah, it really was. Good Lord. All right, I'm done. Dave, you just run the show. It's all you.
Alex, look, I'm not the brightest candle in the cake, but there's just I'm blessed with kind of that Rain Man thing when it comes to certain. Anyway, back to the story there. I can remember CBS having kind of rapid reports. I believe those were popular at the time. Those little kind of bullet reports, and I think they were on Twitter. And I remember they kept mixing up. I think at one point maybe Rashawn Harris got dinged, and they were saying it was Ramon Foster. Anyway, I remember there being this is the big thing that stuck out the most to me about 2009 training camp that you weren't at, that I wasn't at, that only the beat writers at, and obviously the flow of information way back then was just, thanks to Twitter, was just starting to get started, at that point. But obviously, and I can remember reading back, I think some articles on Steelers Depot of how he was making waves during camp and all like that. And lo and behold, he made the roster at a training camp that year. And I think even early season, he was, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he an early season active over a guy like Tony Hills? And I maybe week one out of the chute, if I'm not mistaken. Check that one out for me.
Well, who am I to doubt you at this point? He did start 4 games his rookie year. I don't know, unsure on active, inactive. I think he had to start relatively early in the season. No, he didn't start his first game until week 11, but he probably was active prior to that.
Okay, in week 11, was Tony Hills down?
I don't think I can have an inactive list. I can just look at who started that game. The offensive line that game for Ramon Foster first start was Max Starks, Ramon Foster, Tristan Hartwig, Trey Essex, and Willie Colon. I don't know who else were the backups that game.
Let me see if I can find the inactives real quick for week. Well, what was that? Week 11? Was that against the Chiefs?
Against the Ravens, November 29th. 2009. Ravens won that game 2017.
So that would have been week 12. I think that game was in Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, week 12. Yeah, you're right. Well, game 11.
Let's see. Tony Hills did not play in that game.
Okay.
He was active, however, but did not play.
Oh, he was active. Okay.
Right, he was active. Anyway, what a story about Ramon Foster. I mean, when you're right. We've seen several instances over the years where guys were signed as undrafted free agents, and people automatically think, no way, that guy's going to make the roster. That's why you have to. That's why we do profiles on all these guys after they're signed, and that's why you really watch them closely during training camp and try to give really as fair and as balanced a report as you can on them, because the Steelers have had several undrafted free agents over the years not only make the roster, but go on to have pretty nice careers. I mean, heck, look at three members on their offensive line last year, right?
Yeah, the O-line especially has been a spot. I mean, Filer wasn't originally with Pittsburgh, but a UDFA, and Villanueva, UDFA. I think about Chris Hubbard and guys like that, or B.J. Finney. Yeah, a ton of undrafted guys up front.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the farther we get away from this, how much will Ramon Foster be forgotten in this as the sands of time run through the hourglass? And he shouldn't be. I mean, he really was a fixture, a veteran leader in the locker room. On top of just a good all around guy, seemed very approachable with the media as well too. And as Hines Ward would say, you just got to take your hat off and hand it to him.
Yeah, and I think you won't forget him soon, because I believe he'll have a presence in Pittsburgh media. That seems to be the direction he's gone, and he's kind of dabbled in that and had his radio shows and stuff these last few years. So, yeah, I think for sure you're going to see Ramon Foster. And yeah, I mean, you said it well, consistency, durability, dependability, but also it's fair to say that, and I totally agree, but I also want to recognize how good the guy was, too. It wasn't just he was an average player that was consistent and was just kind of there for a long time. He was a really good player, and as you said, at times Pro Bowl worthy. I mean, it kind of faded, maybe these last 2 years, but yeah, just a rock on that offensive line, a veteran guy on a pretty young team, a leader in that locker room, a union rep, someone the media went to after games, wins, losses, especially losses. Foster was the guy that kind of provided cover and let the other guys not have to deal with the media after an especially difficult defeat. So, yeah, I can't say enough good things about Ramon Foster. I think his future, wherever he goes, whatever path he chooses, is very, very bright.
Boy, he'd be great on the NFL Network. I mean, he has a better grasp of what goes on around the league, I think, than some of those guys.
The bar is low.
Man, I know the bar is low, but he has always been good with the media. Arthur Moats is another one, that I said for a while. And really, going back even a few more years, I knew Ike Taylor would be, great at that. Unfortunately, he had that kind of hiccup in his post-career, too, that got him, I think, kicked off of NFL Network, but I thought he was good when he was on it as well too. But yeah, Foster definitely has a future in the media.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and
the Steelers cleared. If people are curious, after top 51 roster displacement, that retirement move saved the Steelers $3.39 million in salary cap space. A lot of people are asking, well, what's the difference in retiring versus getting cut? Well, really not much, unless the team goes after a signing bonus portion along those lines, which they're not going to do that with Ramon Foster. Right. So in essence, it just becomes exactly like the contract got terminated with him. The Steelers, I looked at the official NFL transaction sheet yesterday afternoon, Alex, and they already placed him on the reserve retired list, and that's not surprising. So that the dead money and everything could happen salary cap wise that way. So they saved an additional $3.39 million with Ramon Foster retiring on Monday.
And that's a good segue into the next piece of news that kind of trickled out both, yesterday evening and then into this morning with all the contract restructures. 5 in total. I'm trying to remember all the names they've restructured. Vance McDonald, Steven Nelson, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Hayden, and I think I'm missing a fifth. Boswell. Okay, so those are the 5 they've restructured. Obviously with the fact that Vance gets his deal restructured, cements his spot being a part of the Steelers 2020 roster. That was our strong assumption, especially over the last month, that they were going to hold on to Vance McDonald, which is a question of how do you make him fit onto the roster. The contract restructure is how you do that. I'll let you talk about those restructures, how much cap it's going to clear up. That is a significant path and kind of the last path the team needed to take to get under the cap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest surprise in here and being the restructured name so far is Boswell, because you save just under, if you did a full restructure on him, you're only saving a little less than $1 million with him. Now the restructures announced this morning Ben Roethlisberger and Joe Hayden. Look, none of these restructures we have exact amounts on yet. We're assuming that all of them were full restructures there, because that would make sense to get the most while you can. Roethlisberger's restructure should clear just under $10 million there. The restructure of Steven Nelson, and in fact, Roethlisberger and Nelson combined should have cleared $13.645 million. I told you that the Boswell restructure just under $1 million there. Let me find where I'm at here on the Joe Hayden restructure. I don't know if you're totaling all these up for me. Hopefully you are.
Oh, I am unfortunately not.
Let's see. The Joe Hayden restructure would a full one would create $2.975 million. And who do I have left? That would be the Vance McDonald one, right?
Which is what, $4 million?
Let me find.
No, probably less than that, actually.
No, I think it was less than that. Yeah, a lot less than that. But I tell you what, while I'm getting these, what it does mean is Vance McDonald, as I speculated for a long time, was probably going to make it to the start of the new league year. And not only that, now that you restructure him, he's going to be on this $2.3 million.
Okay.
You saved on him.
You have a total for the whole group, isn't that they saved totally?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get you right here. Go ahead and vamp or whatever for me.
Yeah, and so obviously, again, restructure is nothing new for Pittsburgh. It's something they've leaned on for a long time. Again, that's why the 30% rule was so important, that the CBA got passed. That rule gets eliminated. Otherwise, these restructures, you're not going to really make any sort of appreciable savings. Like Ben would have only saved you $3 million. Boswell would have saved you, I think, $1,200 was the number that you had put out there. So that's why the CBA passing, it didn't automatically give Pittsburgh a ton of cap space. It gives them flexibility to create more cap space. That was the real key there.
All right. The total is, I had everything ready for you except for the total this morning here.
The magic number.
19.89667. So almost $20 million in one in five total restructures there. Of course, almost $10 million of it was related to Ben. So as I said, I mean it's business as usual. They'll do as many restructures as they feel that they need to do to handle the business that they want to handle at this point here. Now, obviously, we still don't expect them to go hog wild in free agency, and heck, we don't even know what the restricted tenders are at this point. But they can easily afford any tenders that they want to do technically at this point, because now remember you have the reverse roster displacement going on here. So any tender that you hand out at this point, you can subtract $610,000 from it because of the roster displacement, and that's how much cap space that tender eats up here. So now we'll keep our eyes peeled to see Matt Filer, Mike Hilton, Zach Banner, to see any and if all of those three players get restricted tenders here over the course of the next 24 hours. Those tenders need to be in by the start of the new league year, 4 o'clock on Eastern time on Wednesday. The Steelers now, what did I put on the Twitter machine? How far under the cap are they right now? Let's see.
About 15 million under, I believe. What's the number you had?
Yeah, 14.939 million under the cap at this point, following the 5 restructures, 3 contract terminations, 1 retirement, 1 franchise tagging, and a partridge in a pear tree.
You stole my line. I was going to make the dad joke there. Yeah. And so I know that you had the number, Ben's cap charge in 2021, is $41 million or something?
You are correct, sir.
Yeah. Which is a lot. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But I think that the perspective here is that with this new CBA, there is a heavy assumption that you'll see this cap number for 2020 and certainly 2021, or I should say 2021, just that. That number should balloon potentially like $40 million. So the fact that cap number is going to likely shoot up as high as it will makes those numbers look a lot less scary.
Here's the thing with this restructure. They obviously think Ben will be able to play out his contract. Okay. Two, he's due another $15 million roster bonus next year, I believe, at this same time. Okay. So obviously, this time next year would be, they could still get out. Okay. In doing so, if they needed to get out a year from now from underneath Roethlisberger, just because he's fallen off a cliff, so to speak, you'd still have a dead money charge of $22.475 million. Okay, so that's a huge dead money charge, but you're talking about nearly 19 million dollars in cap space saved if you get out before you pay him his roster bonus.
Okay, well.
It's just, once again, you want cap space. You want to be able to do the work that you want to be able to do. Mm-hmm. You want your quarterback to earn a fair earn a fair contract. This is what comes along with this stuff. I don't know what's so hard for people to understand. The Steelers are a team that likes to keep their own players, their own good players, and pay them at a fair market value, as many as they possibly can. They like to retain as many of their own free agents as they can, and they're very modest in free agency. That's how they build this team. Year in, year out. So once again, the biggest obstacle this team faced for this offseason salary cap wise was the 30% rule, and now that that's gone away, it's business as usual. They can kick the can and free up whatever they want to do, whatever they want to do.
And I assume with them working so hard to clear up all this cap space, I mean, obviously they're tendering Filer. They better tender Hilton. And I expect that they're going to tender Banner as well. I think it would be a mistake, assuming they lose B.J. Finney to obviously Ramon Foster's retiring, to lose B.J. Finney and then not tender Zach Banner would really decimate this offensive line depth. So I think with how hard they're working to clear cap space, I think that they will probably end up tendering Banner, and along with, of course, Hilton and Filer, and that all makes a lot of sense.
I guess now the fact is how many more restructures are left coming, and if so, are they going to try to re-sign a guy like Finney?
I feel like they're done with restructures. I think that's it. That's my guess.
I would tend to think that you're probably correct up until maybe unless they need something later in the off season. There, if they were to do anybody, I think at this point, let me pull up my master list here. Who's left? Pouncey's due a $3 million roster bonus. I believe now that could kind of be. Something could be done there if you wanted to. You don't have to be in a hurry with a guy like David DeCastro or Stephon Tuitt. They've done Tuitt a lot already. It's probably time to leave that contract of Tuitt's alone for a little bit, if you know what I mean, because of coming off the injury and all like that. But if they get later on, and look, at some point now, you would think that they're going to think that maybe potentially they can sign Bud to a long-term extension. By the way, they have until July 15th to get that done, and if so, you would think that his cap charge would lower some without there being a 30% rule being in place there. And then also Cameron Hayward at some point potentially signing an extension between now and the start of the regular season, because there not being a 30% rule. I think there's about $3 to $4 million to potentially be saved cap space at that point. But now that they're roughly like 15 million under, you don't have a lot of restricted tenders to hand out there. They could do that, and look, they'll probably work up against the cap most of the offseason here. Once they get to the start of the regular season, they're probably going to want to have about $7 million in salary cap space available to them throughout the season for in case of emergency type stuff. But all that can be hashed out down the road there if they need it there. So long story short, I think they are done with deletions. I think they are done with restructures possibly at this point. If they did do another restructure, odds are probably pretty good it'd be Pouncey, but I don't think there's that much there to save with them. Well, actually there is $3.475 million if you did a full restructure on Marquise Pouncey.
Mm-hmm. And DeCastro too could be eligible, right?
Right, he's probably a guy that you kind of maybe wait, in case you need it. But there's $3.85 million to be had on him as well. And look, I mean, if you needed it, you go get 5.9333, 5.9 million on Stephon Tuitt if you needed it too. So
Yeah.
it's just up to them now at this point. How much do they want to restructure?
All of this is to say these moves have been made not to have some sort of free agency party. I'm sure most fans recognize that now. It's just been the ability to keep the relevant, to keep Bud Dupree, to be able to tender Hilton, Filer, and I hope, Zach Banner. That's what these moves are made for first and foremost. I know we'll get a lot of questions about free agency and who all can they sign and can they go get these big name players. Still, the answer is going to be no. These moves were all made again to be able to do the things they had to do, not the things they would want to do in an ideal scenario. Will they sign some guys? Sure, but they're going to be the players we've talked about, some really low level free agents, minimum salary benefit type guys, veteran guys on the cheap. That's still going to be the target whenever free agency opens up and they get active.
Yeah, and I don't expect them to be right out to shoot kind of team either. Look, here's what's going to happen. They'll probably sign 1, 2, 3 players, but very low level guys. The Max Garcias, a lot of the guys that you recap recently. It's to me, it's not going to be anywhere close to a year ago.
Right.
When you went out, and you got Steven Nelson, you went out and got Dante Moncrief, you went out and got Mark Barron, who was technically a street free agent. Those guys. The Steelers seem to have fairly good luck with kind of the street free agent guys too. The guys that because if you sign the street free agents, they also don't count against the compensatory formula. On top of that, if you remember, Joe Hayden was technically a street free agent. Mark Barron last year was a street free agent. I mean, you can go down the list all time underneath Colbert and look at D'Angelo Williams was a street free agent. Those kind of things. But even if they go after any unrestricted types, once again, it's just hard to fathom them going after high dollar guys and it'd be lower level, bottom of the dumpster kind of guys. Just guys to fill placeholder holes to get to the draft.
Yep, exactly. So just, keep your expectations low for free agency. They're not going to be names that you're going to get super excited about, but that's okay. If you've been listening to us, you kind of know that that's coming. Unfortunately, some holes have been created by the official start of free agency, with the Steelers losing a couple players. And the first big name the Steelers lost last night, and this one was a punch in the gut, Dave. Javon Hargrave gets paid. He goes to Philadelphia, 3 years, $39 million, becoming the highest paid nose tackle in football. Kudos to him. Well-deserved, but an obvious and expected loss, but a big loss nonetheless for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've known he was going to be out the door here. The speculation, all the speculation was at that point was for how much would he go for, and we talked, $15.5 million seemed about the right kind of speculatory kind of price tag on him. If these early numbers are correct, he signed for $13 million, so a little bit less than the $15.5 million there, but $26 million reportedly fully guaranteed. Boy, that's a heck of a payday there for him, and it'll be unfortunately the Steelers now have to play against him during the 2020 season as well too, because the Eagles are slated to play the Steelers at Heinz Field. They're going to be interested to see him in a 4-3 front. He should pair nicely with what's his name over there?
Fletcher Cox.
Fletcher Cox. Boy, that's a menacing duo in the middle of that defense now there. So kudos to him. Once again, you hate to see Javon Hargrave go, but he earned every penny of it.
Absolutely. Let me just say this: the Steelers losing Ramon Foster, BJ Finney probably gone. You better find a good left guard, and make sure your O-line's in order, because you're facing the Ravens, which they've revamped their defensive line with Calais Campbell and Michael Brockers. You're facing, the Eagles with Fletcher Cox, who's always giving David DeCastro fits, and, Javon Hargrave now playing for the enemy. You better make sure your offensive line is solid, because you're going to face a lot of athletic D tackles and a lot of good defensive lines in 2020.
Yeah, and let's see, the Steelers should receive, I don't know, the Hargrave not hitting that $15 million mark makes them kind of difficult to judge, and also probably going to depend on what else happens here during free agency, though. But it's either going to be a third or a fourth round compensatory draft pick value that the Steelers receive next offseason when it comes to calculating the formula. I don't like to say that they'll receive a draft pick for it because all of it goes into net losses and net gains and that crazy compensatory formula and stuff like that. But because of that number, it's kind of that borderline third or fourth round compensatory draft pick value with Hargrave and his loss.
What was the number to hit the threshold for like a third round comp pick value? Was it 15 million? Was it like 12 million? I think Nick Corte had said that number earlier this year. I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember it, but it's right there in that neighborhood, I think.
Yeah. There's usually an average yearly value they have to hit to kind of qualify for that. My gut says it's going to end up being a fourth round value. We'll see. I think it's going to be dependent, obviously, like you said, on what Pittsburgh does. And not that they're going to do a whole lot, but we'll still have to see what moves they end up making. So either way, you should get some sort of compensation for Hargrave. And but yeah, it's a big loss. It's expected, but now they have a huge hole at nose tackle because you don't have really any in-house options to fill. And I know that it's hard to know exactly how to address it with free agency not going to give you a whole lot of options, only 6 draft picks. But I said this before, and I think it's really worth repeating. You play in an AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens, the best run game in football, with Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and company. You play in an AFC North with Joe Mixon, a really good running back for the Bengals. You play in an AFC North with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, 2 great running backs for the Browns. You better be able to stop the run, especially when it's December. You saw that Week 17 game this year against Baltimore, how that was a run-heavy kind of game. So you better have a good nose tackle to stop the run in the AFC North. And right now, the Steelers do not have that guy.
Yeah, we'll see if they're able to get a low-level guy here during free agency.
Yeah, the good thing is that the run defense is cheap. It's a lot easier and cheaper to pay for run defense than it is pass rush, but still, you got to go out there and find that guy. Because you're facing good running backs, you're facing running quarterbacks, you're facing teams that are probably going to run a lot of multiple tight end sets, whether you're talking Baltimore, Cleveland just got Hooper, and they still have Njoku right now. Cincinnati's always been a heavier personnel type of team with probably a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow. So yeah, you're going to be in your base defense a lot in the AFC North, and you better, again, have a really good nose tackle to handle the task of stopping the run.
Exactly.
The other loss Pittsburgh had, and this news came across this morning, and this one's not going to hurt the way that Hargrave does, but on a personal level, it makes me cry, Dave. Tyler Matakevich signing a 2-year, $9 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. Was that too much for Pittsburgh? Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know what the exact details of the contract is, but still, to lose Matakevich, a core special teamer, I think to me, an elite special teamer, that one stings.
Yeah, boy, look at the money he got. I kind of wondered, how much is he worth? Up to $9 million. We'll have to see the exact way this thing is laid out on this.
It's gonna be a Chickillo type deal where it's a 1 year get out of that contract.
Yeah, possibly, but up to $9 million. Up to $9 million means there's probably some sort of incentives and per game roster bonuses or something like that. But I mean, even if the base of it is $3 million. I mean, that's pretty up there for a special teams ace. I mean, although Matthew Slater, for the Patriots has made a living that way, and I suspect that with the Bills, Matakevich, is going to be the core special team leader there. For them, I doubt that they're planning on him playing much on the defensive side of the football there, but just goes to show you that those guys have value there. And would have been nice if the Steelers would have been able to got Dirty Red back for at least one more season on a very cheap deal. Absolutely, but on the flip side, you're not going to lose a lot of sleep over it. Danny Smith might. You might let now you look okay. Robert Spillman, what you got? Can you be the guy? Who's going to be that next special teams demon? Is it going to be maybe Ulysses Gilbert? Stepping up to be that guy. But I mean, Chickillo. I know a lot of people aren't sad to see Chickillo go out the door, but he was a fairly good special teams player during his time in Pittsburgh. Obviously, Matakevich, since he entered the league, one of the top guys as far as special teams tackles go there too. So there is a hole there that needs to be filled.
Yeah, the good news, as you mentioned, there are in-house options. Robert Spillane, I mean, that had great production over 8 games last year.
I keep calling him Spillman.
I know. I think he'll always be Spillman.
Robert Spillman for some reason.
That's all right. Once he makes the roster next year, you'll get his name. UG3, I'm really excited about his progression. He was having a great rookie year before going down with that back injury. And I think the off-ball linebacker group in this draft class is strong as well. So you can find an option maybe on day 3 and try to replace that as much as possible. But it is tough because not only are you just replacing the tackles, I mean, Matakevich was a four-phase guy. He's playing on every single unit besides the field goal block and field goal kick team. So you got to replace those snaps. I think the trust you had in him to get the job done, to be a high IQ guy to handle all those roles. It's not something you can just plug and play and replace. But it can be done. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm just saying Matakevich was an elite guy with elite production. Again, no player in the NFL had more special teams tackles since 2016 than Tyler Matakevich. Now you got to replace all that and the snaps. Not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah. So somebody had to step up.
Yeah, and they got some guys. I mean, we'll see how they handle it. Here's a fun fact. You know who's left? Assuming that Artie Burns and Sean Davis are they're basically free agents now. Do you know who's left from the 2016 Steelers draft class?
Is that Big Dan or no?
No one. They're all gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you threw me a curveball there.
I gave you the trick question. Yeah, I'll read the draft class from 2016 off to you. Artie Burns, Sean Davis, Javon Hargrave, Gerald Hawkins, Travis Feeney, DeMarcus Ayers, and Tyler Matakevich. Again, assuming Davis and Burns certainly will not return. I doubt Davis does either. That's it. The whole rookie class, and just like that, no one was able to be retained. So I'm not saying it was a terrible class. I mean, it was far from a great class either, but Hargrave gets paid and Matakevich goes elsewhere, and that's the group.
Yep. Look, I mean, you obviously when it comes to a draft class, I don't know how you look at it. I mean, obviously you want to try to get your first round pick to be a star and one that re-ups.
Yeah, and that
obviously did not happen when it came to Artie Burns. A lot of us weren't big fans of that selection when it happened there. Sean Davis, look, man, if they would have been able to, if only they would have been able to find him a place. He was a player with no home. Moved him around so much during his career. I think that kind of thwarted his growth. Obviously, the injury last year hurt. On top of it, lost almost a full season. However, it did give birth to Minkah Fitzpatrick there, so that's a positive. Javon, I mean, I don't know. Javon has to be viewed as a fantastic pick. I mean,
oh yeah.
You got, obviously he wasn't 100% snap player because of the position that he played, but boy, he developed each and every year and gave you a lot of good production there, so that's obviously a hit there. Travis Feeney, no. DeMarcus Ayers, no. Tyler Matakevich, though, I mean, sure gave you a core special teams play for all 4 seasons there. So, technically you hit on 2 of those, and had you hit on Artie Burns and him, even if you're losing Hargrave this offseason and Tyler Matakevich, if Artie Burns had hit and resulted in you retaining him, then that class looks a whole lot better.
But he didn't, unfortunately, and the class looks fairly middling, I would say. But there were, some gems. Hargrave was a great find, and Matakevich in 7th round. It's hard to do a whole lot better than what he was able to give you. So, just a little fun fact, though. My stats are the weird. No players from that draft class likely to still be Steelers. Whenever the 2020 season starts. It's kind of crazy. I'm sure that hasn't probably happened in quite some time for Pittsburgh. So anything else Steelers related, Dave, that I missed? I mean, I know we covered a lot there. We kind of ran through it relatively quickly, but again, none of this was incredibly shocking. We knew Dupree was going to get a franchise tag. We were pretty confident what guys were going to get cut. We knew Hargrave was going to go somewhere else. So restructures had to happen for them to get under the cap. So a busy day, but not a shocking day for Pittsburgh.
No, look, I think I think we've done a good job of speculating this thing out, speculating about the speculation about the speculation.
Right. And now we can talk about the speculation about the speculation about the speculation.
Exactly. Now we can praise our speculation of the speculation as far as that goes. No, look, I think we've had a pretty firm grasp on this, throughout the offseason here. And once again, if we're talking about Johnny Holton being potentially the biggest surprise of the news that has happened so far in these last couple of days, I think that says a lot, and really it's not that big of news anyway to begin with. The restructures aren't news, other than maybe Boswell because of the fact that you only saved less than $1 million with him. I'm not surprised that McDonald's kept. I don't think you are either. Barron, once again, a few people might be surprised that Foster retired. Well, look, he wasn't going to be back one way or the other. So, what was he going to be cut? Was he going to retire? That was really the only question of what was going to happen there. I believe that was a plausible solution, throughout this thing there. So, I think we're batting, I don't know, what we batting, about 875 about this point,
So I'll see you in the Hall of Fame, Dave, in Cooperstown. Let's talk about around the league stuff here. And obviously the big news that just came in Tuesday morning, it's literally the news I woke up to, and it put a smile on my face. Tom Brady, we don't know where he's playing in 2020, but we know it will not be in New England. It seems like Tampa Bay or the Chargers are the two most likely places. But Tom Brady, no longer a Patriot. Very weird to say, but also gives me a very happy feeling I don't have to see him and Belichick anymore.
At least that's what we're being told, right?
Well, I think he had a statement that seemed to basically
right,
say that.
But I'm not going to put I'm not going to tighten my tinfoil helmet too tight, unless that's a negotiated ploy of some kind.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, it sounds like he sincerely made the decision that he's not returning to the Patriots. That's obviously big news, at the start of free agency. Now, where will he land? Is it going to be Tampa Bay? Is it going to be the Rams? Who's going to land him now? And does it matter?
Well, I'm just happy he's out of Foxborough. I think Tampa Bay probably ultimately signs him. I guess he goes south somewhere warm in Florida and with Arian's system. I think he just likes Bruce Arians. I think he's probably going to be the best sell of this thing. But yeah, it feels like the Chargers or the Buccaneers. But again, just to kind of end that reign of terror across the NFL that was the Patriots, for me, I'm pretty happy about that.
What does this do to the big question is what does this do to the Patriots now?
That's a great question. I don't know how much it changes their landscape because Brady was clearly declining and clearly struggling. Now, they didn't have weapons last year. They got to be able to add some weapons for sure. But we'll see who they replace him with. I mean, if they replace him with somebody, a veteran guy, let's say a Teddy Bridgewater, for example, I'm just speculating here. I don't know if it changes that equation a whole lot, but it will be interesting because you'll have a new quarterback having to learn that system, and that was the thing that Brady had over every other guy was that he knew that system inside and out, and that's a learning curve for anybody. They probably could never get to Brady's level either. So it'll be very interesting to see that case study of what it's like, life after Brady.
Well, franchise quarterback means everything, and that offense wasn't was clunky last year to say the least, and really the last couple of years for the most. That team has an issue getting wide receivers, and on top of it, and it'll be interesting how quick Tom Brady can, not necessarily Tom Brady, but when you talk about the Patriots and the Patriots alone, how quickly whoever can come in can get that system down and somewhat flourish in it. Now look, they should be fine on the defensive side of football, right? I mean, we're still talking about one of the better defenses probably in the NFL at this point. So, boy, you want to. We'll really get to find out how good a head coach Bill Belichick is moving forward here in the twilight of his career. Boy, how weird will it be to see Tom Brady in another uniform? The old, Joe Montana in another uniform type thing. Just go down the list of players that at the end of their careers look weird in other.
I get the Franco Harris Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, look, I cried like a baby, man.
Yeah.
That was.
I can barely find pictures of him. There's like 2 pictures of him in a season. I know he barely played, but
he barely played that season for one. But that was hard. And Mike Webster in a Chiefs uniform was hard. Obviously, in more modern era, the Rod Woodsons, definitely rank up there. I think I had that on a recent Friday Night 5 Questions post. What was the Steelers player that most hurt you to see in another? I just Franco Harris, that still sends chills down my spine to see him in a Seahawks uniform. But now, as you said, it looks like we're going to see Tom Brady in another uniform. Tom Brady and Bruce Arians' offense? I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. They take a lot of abuse back there with the way Arians likes to go for verticals. But I don't know. I feel like Arians is just going to be a good closer and just sell him on the opportunity there. Throw to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. We have weapons. You will have weapons in Tampa Bay you didn't have these last 2 years in New England. But anyway, again, I'm just happy he's no longer a Patriot. Other news, Bill O'Brien. Someone quarantined Bill O'Brien. I don't know what's going on over there, but what a mess Houston had. Clearly the offseason losers out of the gate, trading DeAndre Hopkins for almost nothing, signing Randall Cobb to so much money, signing Eric Murray to so much money. Doesn't bother me, but crazy decisions over in Houston.
Boy, look, I like David Johnson as an all-around back. I don't like him at the money he's making because of his injury history and all. But you're trading still a wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver in the league. Still, what is he, 27?
28.
28.
Yeah.
And boy, you're just going off of what he did late last season. I mean, Nuke is one of the if not the best wide receivers in the NFL right now. And you know how I feel about the running back position.
Fungible.
Now, granted, you get one that can catch, that helps you out. But I mean, David Johnson hasn't been the picture of health, obviously, throughout his career. And look, I like Randall Cobb. I don't like Randall Cobb for that kind of money and being considered a quasi replacement for Nuke Hopkins there. I don't get it. That's why I think the church and the state need to be separated quite a bit in organizations there, because if you give one guy the keys to the whole enchilada, you have happened what you have happened. Now, it's hard to find anything positive about what the Texans have done so far.
Yeah, and I was looking at their Reddit yesterday, and fans are just apocalyptic about how bad things are, and as they should be, because there's no good reason to justify trading Hopkins. If they didn't want to give him a new contract, I don't understand that. He certainly deserves a new contract, and if there were issues with him and Bill O'Brien personally, you got to be able to figure that out. You just can't trade Hopkins. And if you do trade Hopkins, at least get something for him. You got a declining running back who just did not look healthy last year, and basically a second-round pick, and that was it. And that's a good transition to the other big news of the day that came in really late last night. Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo, and again, I'm sure it sucks for Viking fans to lose Diggs in that Thielen combination, but at least they got a first, fifth, and a couple extra picks as well. So at least they're getting a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs. If you're going to trade these guys, get good value out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diggs. Look, is Diggs kind of a lesser version of Antonio Brown? I don't know. I've always admired Diggs in his game.
Mm-hmm.
I think his attitude kind of off the field and on social media could stand to be toned down, and I'm sure it will as this newness rolls on with him. But he just has that. They all do, right? Diviness to them all there. And there never have been a lot of reports about DeAndre Hopkins and his relationship with Bob, but I think there was a report late yesterday saying that there were some issues there between the two. Okay, well that's fine, that's going to happen, but at least hold out for a little bit of return on the investment. Now, Antonio Brown, I mean, you were dealing with a train wreck watching a train wreck. So the fact that the Steelers got what they got for a guy like Antonio Brown is still really phenomenal, if you ask me. But guys that are not so much train wrecks like Antonio Brown, Nuke Hopkins especially, you got to find a way to get more for him than what they did.
What is the Antonio Brown trade anniversary? That was a couple days ago, or when was it? March 10th. Okay, so we just passed it last week.
The trade anniversary. Oh Lord, yeah. We get a whole bunch of new social distancing trade anniversaries. Oh, I like it.
But yeah, just the value there. Again, I wouldn't trade Hopkins in the first place, but if I had to trade Hopkins for some reason, you got to get more than that. Really strange deal for the Texans. So around the AFC North, Baltimore very busy. I think they are one of the quote-unquote early offseason winners, getting Calais Campbell and a steal from Jacksonville as their fire sale down in Duval continues, and they sign Michael Brockers and do a great deal to get a second-round pick from Atlanta, trading Hayden Hurst, a tight end, to the Falcons. So good stuff there from Baltimore. Cleveland, very active in free agency, as they've been for the last couple of years, signing Jack Conklin to a pretty large deal, signing Austin Hooper, making him the highest-paid tight end in football, and signing Case Keenum to be the backup to Baker Mayfield. So the Browns will probably again be anointed as offseason winners. We saw how that story went last year. I do think they're good moves. I think focusing the offensive line is critical. A big misstep that the front office made last year. Obviously, new regime in Cleveland now, but very active for the Browns and Ravens, and the Steelers, as is usually the case, sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah, insert fart sound here. I'm sure everybody's going to declare the Browns win. Look, I mean, Conklin, a fine player, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the backup quarterback, they're in a good situation there. I'm sure, obviously, they hope that quarterback, who's it, Keenum, doesn't have to play a single down there. There's more to it than just signing the players, though.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, we've had this happens every offseason. Oh, the Steelers are doing nothing. Look at what these teams are doing, and then it ultimately Steelers can usually come out on top. So, not going to freak out about it. I think they were still good signings for both teams. Obviously, Baltimore is going to be a really tough team. They've proven themselves. So there's no speculation about how good they can be, like you'll have in Cleveland. Cincinnati, what did they do yesterday? They tagged AJ Green, right? And
he's not happy about that too.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably not going to do a lick of practice until maybe a little bit in training camp. It doesn't sound like he has any interest in playing in any preseason games for them. What do you try to deal him? At this point here, I mean, it sounds like AJ Green's not too happy to still be a Cincinnati Bengal at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think any Bengals are happy to be Cincinnati Bengals at this point. But maybe they trade him. I think that's certainly possible. But I wonder if you're going to lose some suitors because now that Buffalo's got their receiver, Arizona's got their receiver, you probably lost some key market spots there, and it probably limits who all you can shop to, and that's going to hurt your leverage. So I don't know what the future is there. I don't think they signed anyone yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they've been pretty quiet so far as well in the free agent in terms of signing new guys.
And as far as Baltimore goes, look, I mean, you don't have a quarterback on a big deal right now. Now's the time that you go out and you spend up to the cap. And they're obviously doing that with Calais Campbell. They're going to try to make that defense as stout as possible, and that's why they're able to do what they're able to do. Because trying to take advantage of that window right now before they have to pay Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, that is the upside to having a rookie quarterback, and that is reason why people argue that there should be a separate salary cap for quarterbacks. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Didn't happen in the new CBA, but certainly teams that are paying mega deals to any sort of veteran quarterback, even lesser ones like Kirk Cousins, for example, are still paying a whole lot of money. So that's how it goes with rookie versus veteran quarterbacks. Also, by the way, the Bengals I think are still actively trying to trade Andy Dalton. He may end up in Chicago. So that's the other news with the Bengals is that Andy Dalton probably on his way out in some sort of capacity.
And it looks like Cam Newton's being given permission to seek a trade now too.
Really?
Yeah,
okay. As
of the Panthers Twitter feed about 10 minutes ago there too. So some quarterbacks probably on the move there. What about Andy Dalton to the Patriots? Could that work?
So what about Cam Newton to the Patriots? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be interesting as well too. There, one part of the CBA that we haven't, I don't think, spent enough time on it, and really because I'm still trying to digest a lot of this here, Alex. There's a new veteran salary benefit portion in this new CBA that allows a team to re-sign up to 2 of its own players per year, provided they have at least 4 years of service time, and exclude as much as $1.25 million of each player's base salary from each year's salary cap. So here's an example. Let's say you're a 4-year veteran on the Steelers. They want to re-sign you. They can offer you a 1 year, let's say $6.25 million deal, and only $5 million of that count against their salary cap if they designated you as one of their 2 what they call VSB exceptions. If you left and signed if the player left and signed with another team for 1 year, $6.25 million, that team would have to count the full $6.25 million against their cap. It's sort of a what they call a starter version of the NBA's mid-level exception rule, as it's being understood. The new deal will also provide increases in off-season pay, preseason game pay, performance-based pay, postseason pay, and benefits for current and former players. I guess what I'm circling this back to is maybe like a guy like B.J. Finney, right?
Yeah.
He has now, how many years does he have in? 4, right?
4 or 5.
Wait a minute here.
I think he was 2015 when he came in as UDFA, I want to say.
Let's
You
see
can check
how
that
many
on that. But yeah,
years.
that is interesting. It's kind of like a mid-level exception. It's also kind of like bird rights for the NBA, where the team that had him can kind of have more salary cap flexibility than the team trying to sign him away from that current team.
Let's see. He came in the league 2015, but he how many credited season does he have? When did he come up and really not? I think he had to play what? Yeah, I think you got to be on a roster. What, four? Is it 4 games for credited season? I always forget that
Yeah.
part of it there. But no, he's got easily four credited seasons in, so he would qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
So could the Steelers make him a fair offer and designate him as one of those veteran what did I call that thing? VSB exception, because you get 2 of those a year. Could you sign him to a 1-year, I don't know, $6 million contract and take the discount? I mean,
I think you want to do more than 1 year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how this works for multi-years here.
I assume you could just only take 1.25 over that multi-year deal. So if it was 2 years, 12 million, then you could only count. You get reduced 1.25 off that 12 million, so you count to 10.75, whatever the number is.
All right, so we'll have to look a little bit more into that and see if that new veteran salary benefit, if it could potentially play into this team. Maybe I don't know how it works with multi-years, so I have to read up on that.
Yeah. We'll see.
But maybe that's the way that you're able to retain him.
It'd be nice. It would certainly be nice to be able to retain him and kind of preserve some of that offensive line depth and give yourself some more options. Because again, free agency is not going to offer a whole lot in terms of outside free agents in the draft class. You only have 6 picks. The interior O-line class is not particularly strong. There's some talent out there, but not a whole lot. And you'd love to be you just would hate to lose everybody, in free agency the way this thing's going right now after already losing Tyler Matakevich and Javon Hargrave.
How much is Finney worth this season right now?
It's really hard for me to try to gauge. I'm trying to look at what these offensive linemen are getting, and obviously offensive linemen can get paid really handsomely because there's just such a scarcity in terms of offensive line talent. The one guy who was in Atlanta, I forget his name, Wes Scheitz. What was his name? I forget his name, but he got like 3 years, $13.5 million. So that's about just over $4 million per year. I'm thinking Finney's probably he's got to be around at least $4 to $5 million per year.
I would think so too, and you're probably not gonna slap Alejandro Villanueva in the face and pay a guy like Finney more than Villanueva, right? At this point here. So yeah, I would think around $4 to $5 million might be, assuming you're going to start him. Obviously that might be the asking price on him. And look, Finney obviously wants to stay. Hey, he made what a little over $3 million last year, right?
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, hopefully he wants to stay. Obviously, he was a Steelers fan growing up, so maybe that's incentive to stay. But if he gets good money and a chance to start somewhere else, then that may sway him away.
Obviously, if given your druthers, you're re-signing Finney instead of going out and getting one of those guys off the list that you created, right?
Oh, sure. Well, I think you do both, but yeah, if you can re-sign Finney, then absolutely, I'm game for that.
And then, look, I mean, with the salary cap space they've created now, and we know how they are with re-signing their own. Who knows? Maybe we get a last minute deal here with Finney hours before the start of free agency.
Yeah, it would be nice. All right, Dave, anything else to add? You want to jump to some reader emails?
Oh, I guess we should jump to some reader emails here.
Okay.
Let's see.
What do we got here?
Pull this up here. Dead money study. Hey, Dave, hope you're ready to stay indoors and avoid people for a while. Oh, wait. My question is about how much dead money the Steelers have on their books annually compared to other teams. Boy, I'd have to look. I mean, it's over $8 million in dead money right now for this year, and really most of that's comprised of what just happened with Barron, Foster. Who am I missing here?
Just Chickillo and Curry?
Yeah, Chickillo and Moncrief had some there. So that, over $7 million of the $8 million on the books for 2020 in dead money come from those 4 players. I'd have to see how the dead money relates to other teams around the league, and I don't think it's fair to just do a 1-year study. I think you'd have to do a 5-year the last 5 years to kind of see what percentage of dead money. Anyway, he goes on to say, I understand that every team has dead money on the books every year and that these situations are often outside the team control, i.e. AB last year. However, this is still salary cap space that is wasted, and it's negative for the front office of that team. I'd like to know how the Steelers' dead money charges rank compared to the rest of the league during the Kevin Colbert era. I'm hoping somebody else already has this data that you guys be able to pull this together real quickly. If the team with the most dead money was 1, and the team with the least was 32, my guess is that the Steelers would rank somewhere around 4 to 8. Dan, I'd have to look at that. And I think over the course of Kevin Colbert's entire career would be tough, obviously, to go that data. But I think probably a better way would probably go over the last 5 years. Maybe I'll get to that at some point. But I understand where you're coming from. But look, dead money's part of what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Let's see here. Artie Burns from Jim from Southwestern PA. He writes in, "Hey, hi Dave and Alex. I'm the fellow that proposed a date with my daughter Allie with Alex.
Hey,
I know it. Have you followed up on that, Alex?
No, I have not followed up. How would I know to follow up?
I know it sounded facetious at the time, but I was looking forward to meeting Alex. Well, in the last several months, Allie has put dating on hold because she is concentrating on trying to find gainful employment. She has PA state licenses for dental assistant and esthetician. What is that? Esthetician. I don't even know how to say that.
Is that somebody that does the pain medicine, like morphine and stuff, administers that? I'm not sure.
Let's see. A person who is knowledgeable about the nature and appreciation of beauty, especially in art. Oh no, that's
What?
that's a wrong one. What is
Oh no, we're not looking good here.
I googled it wrong. Who cares what it is? I'm not gonna read that long explanation out right there. Now with the health crisis, we'll just have to let these things work themselves out for the time being. Allie is on Facebook and Twitter, so she can get a hold of Alex once the time is right. And then it has Artie Burns question mark. I don't know what. I think he wanted to give. I think he fooled us. I think he's trying to get his daughter hooked up with Alex, and then I don't know what the question is about Artie Burns, but he's going to be an ex-Steeler here before too long. I'll tell you that.
Yep, yeah, he's gone, and I think Sean Davis is gone too. So, yeah, no interest in him coming back. That was known right after the season. Burns was already talking about new opportunity, looking for a new start somewhere else, and that's probably good for him too, just to go somewhere else where he doesn't have that weight of being a first-round bust on his shoulders.
I think that's all we got here. That overall here, Alex, I don't think anything else really has come in the last couple of days. I'm sure we'll start getting a few more. I think we hit this from Thomas on the cheap wide receiver help. Because he was asking about Martavis Bryant and all. So I think we're caught up there, Alex. So that means the mailbox is now empty. If you want to get an email in and read on the next podcast, which will be, what is today, Alex? Tuesday? Tuesday. Friday. Send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. We are busy on the site. Alex has a video up on the recap of Monday, everything that happened Monday with the Steelers. Probably going to be, I don't know if there'll be enough for him to recap today, but if there is, maybe he'll have another video of that as well too. We also have the live stream that Alex and I did on Facebook Monday night there. I think that's going up on the site, if not already up on the site. And obviously we'll be tracking the Steelers salary cap situation and any news whatsoever that comes across here the next several days as we get ready for the start of the new league year, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Got anything else to add, Alex?
No, just be ready for a lot of updates and be ready for a lot of disappointment if you're looking for a high-price free agent to come to Pittsburgh. Not going to happen, but yeah, the names we're talking about, Max Garcia, Deion Bush, Ashawn Robinson, those are the ones that should be in the Steelers' wheelhouse in terms of guys they could realistically sign.
Yeah, what about, we're not hearing a lot about what's Carl Joseph and his price going to be. We've talked about him a few times as well, too. All right, anyway, in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar on the site. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to the site, please, and hit the ad-free button. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site that's been pretty popular since we put it in about, almost a year and a half or so ago, I guess, at this point here. But in the meantime, and until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.